as if the barbaric treatment of Palestinian civilians wasn't horrifying enough, Abu Sitta then makes the stunning claim that the IDF has been using incendiary bombs that break international laws.
We started seeing phosphorus burns. I had treated white phosphorus burns in the Gaza Strip during the 2009 war and was very familiar with the very characteristic injuries and burns that they make. As a chemical burn, phosphorus burns burn right through to the inner core of the body and only stop when they have no exposure to oxygen. And so the burns would be, the patient would be basically puckered with burns that core right into the ribs, the bones, and unlike thermal burns that spread from the surface more horizontally.
Allegations of the IDF using white phosphorus bombs definitely seem shocking and unbelievable. And in fact, I had trouble believing that Israel would go so far as deploying chemical weapons that would burn the flesh of Palestinian civilians, including children. However, as The Guardian reports, these claims are not new and have been corroborated by other sources. Claims of the use of white phosphorus in Gaza were also made by Human Rights Watch, I apologize, in October, while Amnesty International claimed to have evidence of its use in southern Lebanon. Of course, Israel denies the use of incendiary weapons, referring to the claims made by Human Rights Watch as unequivocally false. Like many Western militaries, the IDF claims, the IDF possesses smokescreen shells that include white phosphorus that are legal under international law. These shells are used by the IDF for creating smoke screens and not for targeting or causing fires, and are not defined under law as incendiary weapons. So they're denying it. But in a subsequent interview, Dr. Abu Sitta elaborates on why he firmly believes that the IDF is in fact using white phosphorus bombs. Take a listen.
Israel insists it hasn't used white phosphorus. So can I ask you, are you absolutely certain these are a very distinctive form of wound that you wouldn't be mistaken about?
Absolutely. So the phosphorus will continue to burn into the body. And your job as a surgeon is to try to cut the burnt tissue out. And what you end up with are cores of tissue that go all the way to the bone. And so the dad had burns into and part of his ribs, and the child had multiple burns all the way in his back down to the bone.
Wow, so that is a very, very serious thing for Israel to confront at some point.
Absolutely.
If it is in fact true that the IDF is deploying these bombs, the notion that Israel would have to confront it at some point is laughable, as long as the United States continues to provide unwavering support for its Middle East ally. So far, the US government has provided cover for Israel's war crimes. And until American voters make it crystal clear that there is a political price to pay for doing so, there's no reason to believe that Israel will be deterred. But Scotland Yard is actually investigating the claims made by Abu Sitta.
My lawyer had been contacted by Scotland Yard to be interviewed as a British citizen who was the victim of a potential war crime, as a survivor of the attack on Al Ahli Hospital, and as someone who had witnessed these wars, these attacks on civilians. And we will be interviewed, and hopefully, for me, Andrew, as a parent, if the world sweeps under the carpet the killing of 8,000 children in 40 days, the world that we will be living in is a frightening place. The sheer number of children who've been killed, there has to be some justice done for these children.
You know, I have to say, what Abu Sitta is saying there sounds eerily similar to what we heard from the United States government. Not in regard to Israel, of course not, but in regard to the barbarism and use of chemical weapons by the leader of Syria. When Bashar al-Assad uses chemical weapons, well, it is a humanitarian crisis, a violation of international law, something that needs to be condemned, something that he needs to be ousted for. I just wish that there was some consistency with the United States government and its condemnations, rather than engaging in these condemnations specifically based on which country they're talking about. If it's an ally of the United States, whether it be Israel or Saudi Arabia, oh, the barbarism's totally fine. If it is an enemy of the United States, a regime that the United States is not at all in favor of, then all of a sudden, international law matters, war crimes matter, and something needs to be done. Clearly, the United States government, considering these inconsistencies that I'm bringing up right now, has really no moral leg to stand on. But they love to talk about human rights abuses in countries that they're considering a conflict with.